Hey guys, it's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and today got a real interesting card to look at here. This is a Carl Boles, and this is Carl's only card. This 1963 Topps, and his only card issued. Really nice looking card with the green and the yellow, and a nice picture there. Of course, it's got the beautiful 1963 back. Carl is a really interesting story. Actually, he's best known, they say, as being a look-alike for Willie Mays. And as we get into the story, you're going to see or hear about that. Carl was born in Arkansas, but then they moved to Kansas City, and he was a big fan of the Kansas City Monarchs, the Negro League team that was there, and he was particularly enamored with Satchel Paige and Hilton Smith. He was a standout basketball and football player, and he actually got a scholarship to Nebraska to play football. But the New York Giants had persuaded him to sign with them. And he did, but in 1953 he had a really sore shoulder, and he couldn't even throw, and some think it was a football injury, and the Giants at first thought they had gotten some damaged goods. But then in 1954, he hit .252, and had 46 stolen bases. And he thought his career in baseball was over. He didn't think the Giants wanted to keep him. So Carl enlisted in the United States Navy, and it was a week later that he received his AA contract for the year for the Giants. He tried to get out of the Navy, but the Navy said, no, you've enlisted. And so he spent 4 years in the Navy, primarily playing baseball. And then in 1959 through 1961, he was in the minor leagues and just couldn't break in the major leagues. And he was actually ready to quit in 1962, but his manager really implored him to stay. So he stayed. And in the middle of the summer, the Giants were really struggling with their reserve outfielders. And their farm director, who was none other than Carl Hubble, came down and watched the minor leagues, and he saw him play, and he said, I like him. And so Carl ended up getting his ticket to the major leagues. Now, the funny story is he was only with them for a few games with the Giants, but on one road trip, they went to New York to play the Mets in the Polo Grounds, and Carl's number was number 14, and he came out, and boy, the fans, they started cheering, and he tipped the hat to him, and the fans were just so excited. He said it was a sold-out crowd, because they thought that he was Willie Mays. And see, Willie was number 24 and Carl wore number 14. Once they realized that it was not Willie Mays, they started to boo him, and he went back into the dugout. And it was not lost by Willie Mays what happened. And Willie realized that Carl looked very much like him. And so for the rest of the year, in 1962, Willie would have Carl get off the bus first, and the fans would flock to him, and then Willie was able just to kind of walk to the stadium or to the hotel without being disturbed, without being mobbed. And he said it was quite the deal for Carl. He would even sign some autographs, and Willie Mays always got a kick out of the fact that Carl was kind of his, what they call a doppelganger, somebody who was very much a look-alike. 1962, he didn't get a chance to play a whole lot. As the Giants went on to the World Series that year, but they ended up losing. But he thought 1963 was going to be his breakthrough year, and in the second spring training game, he broke his ankle, and it didn't heal properly. They had to actually re-break the bone and do surgery, so his entire 1963 season was a loss to that bad ankle. And in 1964, the Giants had some younger prospects. Jose Cardinal was coming up. Jesus Alou was coming up. They moved ahead of him on the depth charts, and so Carl decided that he was going to retire, and he became a scout. Well, in 1966, he resumed his career in Japan, and he played until 1970. And there were 3 years. 1966, he had 26 home runs. In 67, he had 31 home runs. 1970, he had 28 home runs. And him and his wife decided, his wife got a job teaching back in the States, and he came back and retired from baseball But he stayed with the Giants organization, and he was a scout in the Bay Area, primarily Northern California in the Bay Area. And he had recommended to the Giants to sign Mike Norris, who had a pretty decent career as a pitcher, but the Giants didn't sign him. And Mike ended up going to the Oakland A's. But also, Carl had scouted and recommended the Giants to sign this fella here, Bay Area legend Rickey Henderson. Of course, the Giants didn't, and Rickey went on to become a Hall of Famer. The early years with the Oakland A's, and just a great, great player. Some believe maybe the greatest leadoff hitter ever to play baseball. But Carl recommended the Giants sign Rickey, and they didn't. And he always said that was the big miss by the Giants at that time. But then Carl went on, and he was worked in public relations for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and he had a big, beautiful baseball foundation in the Florida area that really helped a lot of underprivileged kids get a chance to get equipment and to play baseball. And there were a lot of kids that came through his foundation, or because of his foundation, that ended up playing college ball, and a few people even made it to the major leagues that were due to the foundation that Carl Boles had started. And he only had 24 at-bats in the major leagues, all in 1962, with 9 hits. He had a great average, 375, with 4 runs and 1 RBI. And this was his only year in the majors, 1962. Got a card issued in 63, his only card. And just a great story on Carl, and the fact that he was kind of a lookalike for Willie Mays. Willie took advantage of that during the 1962 season. And Carl went on to live a nice, long life. He didn't pass away until 2022. And just a highly respected guy. But yeah, Carl Boles, his only card. And now you know his story. And it was the glory of his times to play baseball in the major leagues. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a comment. Give me a thumbs up. And I sure do enjoy digging into these common players that I've had for a long time. I mean, I do love having the Willie Mays cards and the Rickey Henderson card, but you know what? I like having Carl Boles card as well. All right, guys, take care.